It's almost time, kids. The clock is ticking.
The boogeyman is coming. He's gonna get you. 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 He's gonna get you.
Welcome to the now playing Halloween retrospective series.
I'm only trying to give America a good show.
Hosted by Stuart.
I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up.
Arnie.
I prayed that he would burn in hell, but in my heart I knew that hell would not have him.
And Brock.
One must remember not to be fooled by his calm, unassuming facade.
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
Due to the current release of Rob Zombie's new Halloween movie, H2, we will be watching and reviewing all of the films in the Halloween series.
These eyes will deceive you.
A warning, these conversations will be spoiler-filled, and as the movies are R-rated, there may be some objectionable language.
Every other word you say is either hell or shit or damn.
Trick or treat, motherfucker.
Today we're talking about Halloween, the 2007 Rob Zombie version. This is Brock, co-host of Now Playing.
Stuart in L.A.
Arnie in Haddonfield, Illinois, again.
So where last we left the series, it was in shambles. Rob Zombie has decided to, or was asked to, reimagine, retell, reboot the franchise.
And Rob Zombie's a perfect choice for this because I think that it's obvious how much of an influence Halloween has had on him. In one of his most successful songs, the remake of the disco hit Boogeyman, he uses endless samples from the original Halloween movie. So this was really almost a coming full circle.
Quotes, you mean, or the music?
He used quotes from the movie in his music.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever heard that song, or his version of that song.
Yeah, he did a real hard rockin' one, and they keep using that line from the beginning, Boogeyman, gonna get you, gonna get you, gonna get you.
Okay, interesting. You know, and this is all part of a trend that's happening all over pop culture in the last 5 years. Let's go back to things that people love and reboot them, not just remake them, but try to find something new in the origins of it and make it a more realistic, exciting, contemporary version. This has been done well, I think, with James Bond, Casino Royale, Batman Begins. It has also been done incredibly poorly if you look at something like Hannibal Rising.
Or Friday the 13th.
Or Friday the 13th. Exactly. So for the most part, I'm against out and out remakes, but I do like the ideas of reboots and reconceptualizing what people liked about it in a new way. So I approached this Halloween with a very mixed feeling. In many ways, it wasn't something that I needed to see, but I was willing to grant Zombie a little bit extra because I thought that he would have an interesting perspective. He wasn't going to just rehash and send out again what had already been done.
To build on that thought, I completely agree that a remake is kind of unnecessary in any case. The most pointless ever being the Psycho remake with Vince Vaughn.
Well, sure.
There was no point to that. But when you are dealing with a franchise, what happens is you get so strained in your continuity or you become so disassociated with the modern audience where you either have to be true to what's come before, or you can take your greatest hits of and reevaluate it so that it can appeal to a modern audience while keeping what made it a classic alive. So after Halloween 6 and or 8, I think it's a perfect candidate for this kind of a reboot where you take all the parts that worked, but cut yourself off from all of the continuity nightmares and the actor squabbles over salaries and just start over and give it a chance to go good. I was very much looking forward to this when it came out. I saw it opening night in theaters, and I just thought it was a perfect candidate to be brought into a modern era out of its 70s upbringing.
And yet it starts in the 70s. We start with Michael Myers as a boy talking. We see his home life. We see him getting in trouble in school and all that.
1981, just to be technical, certainly has a 70s vibe to it. It's people in 1981 still living like it's 1978.
I see. I didn't catch that.
He was intentionally vague. He never stated the year that I could tell.
Yeah,
no,
I could tell.
They do? Did? Because, in the making of, I watched a 4.5 hour making of this movie. 4.5 hours I'll never get back. And he was talking about how he wanted it to be timeless and not really evoke anything. But by the same token, when you listen to the music they're listening to, Kiss is God of Thunder and Don't Fear the Reaper and Love Hurts, it just, and the hairstyles, it just all screams 70s.
The mutton chops.
There's an intertitle that says 1981.
You saw the rated version, didn't you? Was there a rape scene?
No.
You saw the rated version. We saw the unrated version, which has different titles. They removed 1981. It just says October 31st in Haddonfield, Illinois.
Oh, this will be fun discussion then.
Yes,
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
There's only a couple major differences. There's a lot of minor differences. The biggest major differences are they changed some titles, including that one, and they completely changed how Mike Myers escapes from the sanitarium, which we will get to.
Oh, good.
Okay. All right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I must have seen a rated version, but I did watch deleted scenes. So, but in none of that, there was a rape scene. So when we get to that, I'm curious to know where that would have happened. Okay.
Let's start at the top of the movie. So we see Michael at home with his mom and his stepfather, and a bad family dynamic. Let's just put it that way.
Well, let me just put it out there. Again, Haddonfield, Illinois is supposed to be middle America, right? It's supposed to be where Stuart and I grew up, right? We did not grow up in this white trash meth lab environment.
What is with all the hillbillies? You're a redneck if you're in a Rob Zombie movie? I mean, what is this? I don't understand what William Forsythe, man, he went to town. This guy went all out with this, but I just didn't understand what I was watching and why. And I mean, how many F-bombs were in the first 5 minutes? I could not believe that. I mean, I wasn't put off by it, but I just didn't understand why it was going there. It was such an unhappy family environment. Sure, the guy's a mass murderer. Okay, but I just found that, like, right off the bat, we knew exactly, like, we got thrown into this, and I found that an incredible statement.
Well, his mom's a stripper. His dad is gone, and there's just this deadbeat, crippled guy living in the house. His sister's a mean slut. I mean, it is the worst possible family environment. And doesn't that make it almost too easy to make him a serial killer? Isn't it creepier if he's me and he grows up in a normal-looking home rather than, oh yeah, his mom's the town slut who works at the strip club?
You've just hit at my major point, and my major feeling about the whole reboot in general is that they're trying to go back and tell us why Michael is the way he is. I think that's a false premise. I always preferred the original's take that we'd know nothing about him, that he's ambiguous. But if we're to go back and try to understand him as a real human being, that he's real, he's not this superhuman monster, and really understand him, I'm not sure that all the excuses that they give for why he is the way he is really work. I mean, there's a lot of people that come out of poverty. There's a lot of people that come out of sexually and emotionally abusive family environments and don't go this route. This feels like Zombie's fetish. This feels like he can't be happy unless there aren't white trash depravity. And this opening scenes are so depraved. I really can't emphasize that enough, how overwhelming it feels to watch these scenes. I was just like, oh my God, I can't take it. It's not fear he's inducing, it's nausea.
I thought it was light on fear and scary.
It is.
And he didn't evoke that at all for me. And these opening scenes with the boy, I did find interesting to a point, but I got the point earlier than the movie wanted me to, I guess.
I didn't need as much as this as Zombie did, but you guys have gone back and looked at the rest of his work, and I didn't participate in that environment. Just to tag in there, I really do think the man has some talent. He's kind of, to me, very much like Tarantino. He's very good at evoking what has already been done in horror. He has good taste. He has a good aesthetic, but he's too much. He just keeps putting more and more and more and more on, where I would need, from Tarantino, 3 good lines. Tarantino would write 3 pages.
I said a very similar thing on the other podcast. Rob Zombie goes too far.
Yes.
And we'll talk about it, I guess, throughout today's podcast, but I had the exact same thing.
So I really feel like when I'm watching these intro scenes, on one hand, I love what he's doing. I love the look of it. I love the feel that he's getting at. But I do not want to spend as much time as we do in this household. But I'm going to grant it to him because he's trying to tell me why Michael went the way that he did.
And I'm actually glad that he took the route of, when you're approaching the remake, he almost has 2 movies here. 1 hour of which is a remake of John Carpenter's Halloween. But the first hour is basically a prequel to Halloween.
I agree. And I feel like that was the movie he was much more into. I feel like if he could have gotten away with selling a movie that was just this part and never gotten to Laurie Strode, he would have been fine with it.
I believe that's true from what I've seen in the interviews. And I think that this part of the movie really, really works. I think that the kid they cast is just hellaciously creepy in some of his facial expressions.
He's awesome.
I mean, you could not have gotten better. I think that the family, while I don't necessarily agree that white trash is the way to go for Haddonfield, where supposedly this later on is a nice suburb. Usually things go the other way. Things go downhill in neighborhoods, not uphill. So yeah, I don't think that, I don't know how on a stripper's salary alone they could afford that house in that neighborhood and all of that. But I think that the casting was well done. I think William Forsythe, he was over the top and he was great. But sadly, I've met people like him in this area. You know, there's just really these gross, nasty people in Illinois, and not usually in the suburbs, but you know, I think that
there goes your job as a real estate agent.
I love these scenes, and I love the school scenes too, with the bully and everything. Although he is one researched bully, if he's taking clippings from the newspaper, thinking I'm going to use this against Mikey tomorrow, you know, he's doing his homework on the bullying. But
he has a newspaper clipping with a picture of Michael Myers' mom, you know, come see me at this strip joint.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And well, Arnie, I would, the only thing I have to that is it's not the first time that Michael's been bullied by these two kids. So this kid happened to come across this and cut it out because he knows he's going to bully Michael later.
Yeah, but that's bully homework. You know, no bully does homework.
I wouldn't also rule out the fact that he was cutting out because he thought the mom was hot.
That is very true.
That is true too. And you know, I'm going to combat something real quick on you just said about well-acted scenes. I thought Sherry Moon did okay in certain parts, but I thought she underdid it. I didn't really buy it, the whole movie, that she was in it.
I didn't like her in this movie. I'll be honest there.
I don't think she did it. She was cast for obvious reasons, and that's fine. And
she's sleeping with the director, you know.
Yeah, I mean, okay, let's call it out. I mean, David Mamet uses Rebecca Pidgeon in all his movies, and the movies are still good regardless of her bad performances in them.
Yes.
But here, she just couldn't handle the material that was given to her or something. Because, for example, they show her dancing at the strip club at night, the night of the murders. Now, A, you don't need those scenes at all. We know she's at the strip club. It's completely superfluous. And B, there's no nudity. We don't see her nude. C,
that's her Oscar clip.
I think it's especially hypocritical that the one person, the only female in the whole movie who doesn't show her tits is Zombie's wife. I mean, seriously, every other woman.
And she plays a stripper.
Yeah, the stripper. That is
the stripper.
If it had been any other actress, you know, Rob Zombie would have been like, you're taking your top off or you're not getting the part. But it did seem very hypocritical to me that every woman but the stripper is topless in this movie.
I'm going to just chime in and agree with you guys. I think Sherry Moon is miscast. It's not even that she gives a bad performance, and she does. It's that she is never going to be able to give what this role is requiring, which is empathy. She's actually a good mother who's just in an unfortunate circumstance and trying to raise her kid doing the only thing she knows how to do. She's supposed to be sympathetic. That sympathy does not come through. You needed someone else in that role. She's just wrong. She shouldn't have had the part.
I don't understand why the character would stay with that husband because they don't give you a reason for her to stick around
she
or make
him on her own. Exactly. The idea that she would allow that in her house. Not that obviously there aren't many abusive relationships like that, but I didn't buy into it. It felt like 5 different non-cohesive explanations as to why Michael Myers became a sociopathic killer.
And the other thing is, I think that the scenes they left in the movie, she was fine in them. Not great, but fine. But I watched some of the deleted scenes with her, and she is awful in them and really bad. Just can't even give a line reading.
Yeah, and that's why they're deleted. That is why they're deleted. They're not deleted because they wouldn't have been helpful. I think they would have been helpful. It's that they just clunk. They just hit the ground clunking. They don't.
I mean, you don't put Sherry Moon Zombie, who is very attractive, but not the greatest thespian in the world, in a scene with Malcolm McDowell, who I think is.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah.
And those were all the scenes where Malcolm McDowell eating the scenery and Sherry Moon Zombie going, not an actress.
But you know what? You mentioned the kid. I do want to say I think he's really well cast. You know, we've seen a lot of killer kid movies lately, too. I mean, they remade The Omen. That was bad. There's been a lot of, you know, child actors trying to play demonic. And this one nails it. He really has a look and a presence that is sometimes hard to get from kids. You get the sense that he actually understood what was going on in the script and played it. Sometimes they trick kids, like the kids are acting and they don't know what they're really acting in. I think the kid knew.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly how because it's a performance. I mean, he literally goes from eating candy corn and enjoying trick-or-treating. The whole thing about him being denied this very trick-or-treating thing is what spurns his attack on his sister. And you see a character who can still be childish, who can still be like, I want to go trick-or-treating and eat candy, and then like that, turn and be like, and now I'm going to kill you. Unemotively and unsympathetically.
And that's right after he killed the school bully.
Yeah, the killing of the bully scene is a tough scene. That is one of the tough scenes in the movie. There's two that really stand out, and that's one of them. And it plays so well with the idea of we really hate this bully. I mean, everything out of his mouth is vitriol and hate, and we want to see him go down. But once Michael is unleashed, we want him to stop, and we really empathize with this bully, and we really don't want him to kill him.
It may hurt my perspective a little bit that the bully is the kid who I really enjoyed seeing in the 3 Spy Kids movies. And so I'm seeing the Spy Kid just get the living shit beat out of him with a stick. And I'm like, oh my God!
My problem with the bully scene is he murders the kid in the woods, and he hits him and he gets him down. And then they have a shot of him raising a stick up and coming down to whack the kid. And then there's like 2 or 3 more shots of cutting to the kid on the ground bleeding and dying, when it would have been just as effective, if not, I think, arguably much more effective, actually, if you show him go in for the kill, you hear the crack, and then you go on to the next scene.
Well, I'll tell you what Zombie was doing there is he was intercutting the kid dying with the spinning of the trees, giving you the perspective of the victim. You were seeing his last scene and his last views of the spinning trees and trying to connect more with the victim, thus making it more sympathetic.
I didn't get that, because what I got was this is brutal and it keeps going and going and going, and it didn't work for me. Okay, I got the point. He's killing the kid and the kid's dying, and then he kept on going, and then he finally got away from it and went on to the next scene.
Well, let me step out of this just for a second. This is the second time that I watched the movie. I first saw it. My mom was coming to visit me, and I think I mentioned in the very first Halloween podcast how we had this funny story in our family about how she got the living shit scared out of her watching Halloween and woke us all up in the middle of the night and said there's a killer in the house because she had accidentally unplugged the lamp. And so we were like, haha, it's this thing, we enjoy it. And so when this came out, we went to the drive-in and we're like, oh, let's just watch this. This was the first of 2 movies, and we saw it. I was actually, as this was happening, my concern went immediately to my mother being like, I can handle this, but I don't want my mother to be, my 65-year-old mother to be watching a small child being beat to death. And then I look over at the car next to me, and there's a couple with a 4-year-old child, and they're watching this. And I know I was a kid, I watched horror movies and I loved it, but I liked the kind of horror that still protected the audience. And this is an unrelenting movie, and it really is only meant for people that really have the maturity to go there and come back. Like, I don't think old people and children should see this Halloween.
Well, I perhaps agree with you on old people, but I think that horror has evolved and the gore factor is up there, and what we saw and now view as safe horror as a kid. When I was 7 and saw Jason's mother decapitated in Friday the 13th Part 1, I was fucked in the head. It messed me up for years.
Right.
Now I watch it and I laugh. Now, I think that any kid 7 years old who sees Jason Voorhees' mom decapitated from 1980 laughs because it looks so fake compared to the sophistication the kids have today.
Why wouldn't they have the same response as you?
Because they are a more sophisticated audience, more into what's happening.
They're more sophisticated because at 4, their parents took them to the drive-in to watch this movie. And that's what I'm saying. I feel like, not that I'm getting on age-appropriate horror movies, but I really feel like this has a level of brutality. I agree with you. That goes beyond the horror movies that I saw at a young, impressionable age. And if I saw this level of brutality at that age, I don't know that I would have liked horror movies.
I think that this is what kids who were our age, which is early teens when we got into horror, what they expect today is this. They are watching Saw.
I agree. Us. Absolutely.
Yeah. Arnie, there's a difference there between the early teenagers watching this movie and what they expect. And then what you're saying is your first time you watched the Friday the 13th was you were 7, right?
Yeah.
So when you're still little, I do agree with Stuart that a 7-year-old might have the same reaction to a Friday the 13th movie because he doesn't know the difference yet. But a teenager who's watching this movie hopefully does, especially with, all the other stuff that's around today that is similar or has taken the next steps in the maturity you're talking about. But a 7-year-old kid should have the same reaction, hopefully, that you did, because why wouldn't they? Unless they're exposed to things at a much earlier age, and then that's just a parenting thing, then I don't want to get into this conversation right now because it gets off topic.
But I just think that this level of brutality is you're making this for a current audience, and you can't use 80s gore when you're trying to modernize. You've got to use 21st century gore, and Saw and Hostel have upped the game, and Rob Zombie's just seeing it tit for tat.
You can do it, and it has been done, but you're right. Commercially, it didn't work. It was called Grindhouse, and they tried to recreate that look. Zombie participated in that, in fact, and I like that movie. It would have been a way to go with this series, but what Zombie has announced here, we're watching kids do this level of brutality with this level of intensity, is that he wants to get at the root of the evil. All the things that Pleasance talked about and implied with he's evil, the dark evil. We don't need Donald Pleasance's character, Sam Loomis, saying all that in this movie because we are watching it. And I mean, you get it from the scene of the bully. I don't need another scene of somebody telling me how awful and antisocial and heartless Michael is. I've seen it. I got it.
And you got it with the rat. And what freaks me out is I actually just read a news article 2 months ago about a kid in Ohio who killed like 14 cats in his neighborhood. And all I could think of was this movie when I read that article. It's like, I'm glad they're locking this kid up because people are next. Because that is a true thing. I've studied serial killers. I was fascinated by them in high school, Ed Gein and all that. They start with animals. They practice on defenseless animals and move to people. That is a real fact, and it's something that Zombie did here. It's not original because it's a very well-known fact, but it was something that drove home a little bit more reality to it as he starts on his pets and the neighbor's pets, and then when he feels practiced enough, he moves on to the people, and it adds to the creep factor.
He not only killed his sister, he killed his stepfather. He killed the sister's boyfriend, because in the first Halloween movie, he let the sister's boyfriend go. But he lets the baby live. What I like about
his mother.
That scene, and his mother wasn't home, right? He was out, right? So
I don't know that he would have killed her if she had been, but
probably not, right?
Yeah.
He killed the people who were mean to him, if you look at it. Right. Every single person he killed picked on him. He had a motive for all of those, which comes into play later. As for the baby, of course, couldn't be mean because it's a baby. It can't speak yet. But I think there's something else going on there, and I'm really looking forward to Halloween 2 because it's brought back up later in the movie, and you still don't know what Michael's trying to do.
Well, yes. I have some theories, but we'll get there.
What I loved is that he found the oversized mask, and when he walks out in the hallway following his sister when she's trying to get away from him, and he has this little body with this giant head, I thought that was a really funny and creepy image at the same time. It's sort of like, don't worry, buddy, you'll grow into it, And it was just a big head on a small little body. But that's probably one of the only things I found creepy about the entire scene was the big head on the small body.
And I hate to ruin it for you, but that image is a direct lift. I have a recommendation for you if you ever want to see the scariest horror music video, and I apologize to Michael Jackson. It is Aphex Twin, Come to Daddy. I'm going to say no more about it. Go watch that, and you'll know where Zombie got that mask on the little body.
Okay.
I do have to say that, I never really have noticed a whole lot of differences in the masks from movie to movie. I know there's websites dedicated to just analyzing all of the slight differences in the masks from all the movies. We talked about how we didn't like the eyes in H2O perhaps, but here this mask is more refined. It's more menacing looking with its lines and its angles, and I think that this is a great evolution of the mask again for the 21st century to bring with it a sense of danger. It doesn't have the complete blankness of the original Shatner mask, but it is a wonderful menacing mask, and I think it worked really well when the kid put it on.
Yeah, some of the older masks made me think there was nothing there. You had no read on it. When you looked at it, you like, I don't know, he could be whoever's underneath could be happy, sad, frustrated. I wouldn't know. When you look at that mask at any time, it looks angry.
Right.
And when a child puts it on, there is something very evocative about that image.
It was effective. Yeah.
I would like to give small compliments to the sister, and something that happened when I watched this, even the second time. I wasn't sure if the same actress that played Lori later was also this. And I think that would have been a brilliant directorial choice if they had done that.
I had the same kind of question because they really look and act alike.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And that is, I really wish it had been the same actress because there's so much symmetry to the first half of the movie and the second half of the movie. It would have been really interesting to see an actress play slut and good girl.
Although we'll get to it, but Laurie is nowhere near as good in this movie as the original.
Nowhere. Of course, they made some choices. They've tried not to make her the virgin and terror that Jamie Lee Curtis was, but she's still a good kid. And I would have enjoyed that, exploring that a little different. That said, I thought the actress that played Judith was really good. And even though she had made offhanded comments to Michael, she's the first person killed that you feel like, wow, she didn't deserve that. You know, I'm okay with the evil stepdad getting taped up in throat, even though it's horrific. Obviously, I'm affected by the death scene of the bully, but at least he was a horrible, horrible person. But she and her boyfriend, they were self-involved, and they weren't trying to parent Michael, but they certainly weren't cruel to him in the way that the other characters were.
I think she was. The way, the breakfast scene, talking about him masturbating his rat, and she is downright cruel during that breakfast scene. She's a bitch. She really is.
All right. I didn't have that response at all. I felt like she was a pretty good girl.
Oh, I felt like she was so deserving. She was as deserving as the father. The boyfriend perhaps didn't deserve it as much. I think out of any of them, the boyfriend who lived in the first movie originally in the 70s, he was the one this time who was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But the sister was nothing but a bitch to Michael. I think that comes through that this is a long-standing antagonistic relationship. She slaps him when he walks into her room, you know, going, "What the fuck are you doing?" She hits him. She's a total bitch.
You know, to me, that was just like watching kids fight. It's how these are kids growing up in incredibly awful circumstances. She's adapted the best she can. He's adapted the best he can. And they don't get along. That made sense to me. I don't blame her for that. She's as much a victim as Michael, in my impression. So I wasn't rooting for her death. And I did feel her death and the boyfriend's death were upsetting in a different way than the other deaths.
Why did he use Love Hurts?
I just kind of thought that it was, you know, going back to the whole stereotype of if you have sex in a horror movie, it kills you. Sex, love hurts. That's what I was reading.
I mean, and it could be more paternal love. I mean, at that point, he is on the cusp of being sexual. We get the sense that he is entering puberty and he is starting to have feelings about his sister. He's, you know, certainly about the way that he comes in when having sex. But I didn't get it so much as the fact of that kind of rejection as much as that, you know, he had been denied he had been neglected.
Right.
He was sitting alone on Halloween, a day that he would like to be with his family, celebrating, and he's eating candy alone with no kids, no friends, no family. His mom's stripping. It is a good stripper song. It was just it was a choice that announced itself. Rob Zombie is behind this movie, and I had that many times of just like, oh, this is Zombie going all out and being a part of it, like stepping out from behind the camera and saying, "I'm here."
And when first watching this, I was thinking, you know, in the original, Michael only killed his sister, and it makes a lot more sense that the fame these days would go to a kid who goes on a killing spree versus a kid who just kills his sister. Because come on, we've got teenage boys going into schools and killing 10 people in a day anymore. So I think that the body count had to be upped for the modern era, because a kid who just kills his sister is no longer a threat. He's a common hood.
Yeah, that's sad.
Statement. Yeah, sad.
But you get my point, right? I mean, a kid who kills his sister is not going to be believable as somebody who you write a book about anymore. Not after Columbine. It changed the game.
Right. You're not going to write a book called The Devil's Eyes and compare him to the devil. I agree. And I don't think any therapist should compare a psychologically damaged person to the devil, but, you know, I didn't read the book.
Especially his own patient.
Yeah.
I mean, Malcolm McDowell, let's talk about him. He is great. He is wonderful. I don't think there could be a better Sam Loomis than Malcolm McDowell, and that includes Donald Pleasance.
I agree.
He has the hip, cool, and the danger and the obsessiveness. He is everything you want in a Sam Loomis. And the moment I knew he was cast as Loomis was the moment I got excited to see this movie for the first time, and he did not disappoint.
I want to say that in the first part of the movie, the first hour, when we see him with Michael in the sanitarium, I thought he was fantastic. And I loved how he interacted with the boy. And you could really get the point that this doctor is working with this kid. And then the second half of the movie, when he's an old man, I actually got the age difference. Like, not only the wigs and the dyed hair, dyed beard helped that, but the character aged, not only in physical form, but the way he saw the world and how he's different, how he saw Michael. Like, he clearly was cashing in, all that kind of stuff, and that was an interesting plot point. So I really thought he developed a great character. The second half of the movie, I didn't like Sam Loomis as much as I liked him in the first half of the movie, though. I didn't really think I needed a lot of Sam Loomis in the second half, or maybe I needed more. I can't really figure that out. But I do know that I didn't like the character as much in the second half, but I thought the first half, he was phenomenal.
It's what I've been saying from podcast one, and that is Sam Loomis is a cool character, but they've never known what to do with them. He has something to do in the first half of the movie. We're forging that relationship between him and the child, and it's fascinating to watch. Once it's removed from the context of the institution, and it's just Sam Loomis wandering around Haddonfield trying to find Michael, again, I'm left with like, what are you doing in this movie? There's nothing for you to do except show up at the very end and help Laurie protect herself. But for the first half of the movie, for sure, McDowell brings his game, and he's the best thing about it. He's what we need because there's so much depravity. There's so many characters that we just sicken us and revolt us, that to finally see someone who's noble, who's trying to reach out to this damaged child, who's trying to fix a very, very bad situation, we instantly connect to him. And I would have liked to have had more scenes with him in the institution. I actually do blame Cherry Moon's bad performance for why they ended up on the cutting room floor.
The other thing is he's funny. I mean, he's writing that book and he can come across as so insightful into the mind of Michael Myers when he's giving that great speech with the big projected boy Michael behind him. But by the same token, he also gets some great lines both in the sanitarium and when he's with Sid Haig in the cemetery, and Sid Haig's talking about the book he wrote and doesn't know that it's Loomis he's talking to, and his response is, I read that book. It was a masterpiece. I mean, it's just great.
It was funny. I like that scene too. Anyway.
So then we have the scenes in the sanitarium. I have to ask, do they still have sanitariums, or have they renamed them all to like rest institutions and mental institutions?
Or rehab.
Yeah.
You know, that's the trendy thing in LA is that, yeah, people get exhaustion and have rehab. They don't have mental breakdowns.
We fast forward 15 years later, and Michael is now a big motherfucker.
He is huge.
6'8" Tyler Mane is, and weighed 350 at his peak wrestling weight. That is one big guy.
I thought that was a really interesting choice to make him so big because I hadn't seen the movie before, so it's my first watch. And at the end of the first movie, Halloween, with John Carpenter's, he takes 6 shots and falls out the window and walks away, right? So I was thinking maybe they're using him this big so he can take a lot of abuse. You know, that's what I was thinking that choice was. But beyond that, holy cow, he turned into from Cousin Oliver from the Brady Bunch into this gigantic hulk of a man. And I'm like, holy cow, what are they feeding this guy at this place? Because this guy grew up big. And I thought it was really a good choice to have Michael Myers be such a big guy. Very good choice.
It was an interesting choice. I'm still processing it, honest to God. I don't know whether it was the right choice or not. Would it be more scary to have him look average or slight? I don't know. I mean, you could have played it any different way. By making him that big, you've obviously made him instantly fearful and imposing. But logically, I'm not sure that the frame on that kid, would sprout up in that way. But and he never works out in the movie either. I don't even know that he has access to it. So it's sort of just a conceit we have to give it, that the evil in him makes him so massive.
I was actually really opposed to the casting choice initially because the guy who did this is Tyler Mane, professional wrestler, who I only know because he was Sabretooth in the first X-Men movie.
Oh, yeah.
And I hate him in that movie because they took that entire movie and filled it with Ray Park and Taylor Mane, these people who just can't freaking act. And so I heard Taylor Mane do this. I'm like, God, he ruined X-Men. Why is he in this movie? He's going to ruin Halloween. But he is imposing, and fortunately, all he has to act is just, look menacing, and all he has to do is stand there to do that. So I think it was worked well.
Yeah, it was body language. It wasn't really facial either because he was wearing masks all the time. So it wasn't like he had to evoke a lot of any sort of thing on his face. He didn't speak. He just had to move menacingly and have an imposing figure. It worked. So we're in the sanitarium, and Danny Trejo, woohoo! He's back.
So is everybody from the previous movies, aren't they? We got Sherry Moon Zombie, Danny Trejo, and then, Brock, you didn't see it, but Stuart did. We had Bill Moseley, and also, what's her name from who played Mother Firefly in Devil's Rejects.
Oh, Leslie Easterbrook.
Leslie Easterbrook is in this movie because what Stewart saw was they're doing a prisoner transfer of Michael Myers. It's 4 security guards, including those 2, and another House of a Thousand Corpses one. The cop who got killed in House of a Thousand Corpses returned as a ghost in Devil's Rejects. He was one of the security guards moving Michael, and Michael just breaks out of his chains and kills 4 security guards and then lets the inmates loose and escapes. What Brock and I saw was that new orderly, the one who talks shit to Danny Trejo, brings in his redneck cousin so the 2 of them can rape a new female inmate, and then they decide to rape her in Michael Myers' room just because Mike's a dumb mute. They go in there, they start wearing his masks and raping the girl in front of him, and Michael Myers steps up, kills the 2 rapists, and then launches his escape.
Ah.
Yeah.
And that is a brutal rape scene.
So it's almost more justified that he breaks out, and it explains why now he's going to, after being there however many years, 16, 15 years, he's going to now.
But Stuart, not only does the door is open for him to walk out, he also, doesn't he kill everyone in the sanitarium on his way out too?
Yeah.
He just starts, we don't see a lot of the deaths, we see the carnage, but the rape scene was certainly a hardcore rape scene, I would say. It's, you don't see penetration clearly, but you do see them raping her, you know, and it took a while.
I mean, we didn't need that to know we hated that one character. It is weird in my cut that they introduce a character so loathsome and then he's never seen again. So it at least explains to me why he was there.
Well, you know, Stuart, if you have a character that loathsome, as you saw that scene, you had him that bad, you didn't really need the justification for Michael to kill him by raping the girl. You already didn't like him because he was Michael already didn't like him because he was taunting him. So is it a weak justification to kill somebody? Well, not in a horror movie, it's not. But the rape scene, again, you know, there you go again. It's a choice that he went very far with. Now, it was
at least they had the sense to know to cut it out, because it sounds to me like it was way more than necessary.
It was. And what's funny is I watched both last night. I had to go to YouTube to see the uncut one, or the cut one that you saw, Stuart, because it's not even a special feature on my disc. And your scene is more action-packed. Mike Myers is using the chain as a weapon that has bound him, and he kills 4 guards, and it's unexpected. It's action-packed and just a kick-ass scene. And it's scary because it's out of nowhere. This rape, like you say, it justifies everything. It has a lower body count. Not that this movie has a high enough body count. 2 here or there isn't going to matter. But it seemed so much more contrived that they would rape a woman in Mike Myers' room and thus deserve what they got. Whereas these guards, you know, they're one of the lines that they say is, they tell us to move the meat, we move the meat. They're just doing their job. They're not doing anything right or wrong. And Mike Myers just chooses this moment to snap and kill them.
Yeah, that scene felt random, but it moves into the scene that I'd really like to talk about, and I hope that it's in your cut as well, and that is the fruition of his relationship with the janitor Ishmael, Danny Trejo. To me, that, along with the bully scene, really let you know, more than any other talk that had been given, how bad Michael was. Because here was a guy who plays a paternal figure, the first paternal figure in Michael's life other than Loomis, nurturing him, allowing them to collect these masks, is really good to him. And Michael's entire response is, "You must die." And he's begging for his life, crying. It's a scene you really hate to see, but it really lets you know this is what evil is. And I think that's all that she needed. I think that's all that she needed was the bully scene and this scene to know how bad Michael Myers was.
And when I first saw this movie, I thought Trejo was going to get off because he was nice to Michael. And, you know, that's how the horror movies kind of go. You know, the one guy who was nice to him.
He would be the witness. He would see everyone else murdered and be able to tell Loomis what happened and this and that or whatever.
Yeah, so when Danny Trejo was killed, I was like, you know, because up until this point, especially in our cut, every single person Michael killed was mean to him. Even the nurse he kills right before Sherry Moon kills herself, you know, was mean to him because she goes, "Cute baby, can't be related to you." You know, just an offhanded comment, but a mean-spirited one. Danny Trejo was never mean to Michael that we can see. 15 years, and Michael still kills him like anything.
You know, not only anything, the cut I saw, and I'm not sure how it's edited for Stewart's, is that you show him dunked in the water, the blood coming out. They show him come out of the water, a different cut. You go back in the water. You go back in the water, I think 3 times. You didn't need to do that. You got the point, how brutal this was.
Yeah.
You kept on doing it. So the same thing with the rape scene with those guys. We already got those guys were bad. So when Michael should kill them, he doesn't need the rape to justify it. He already has reason to kill them because he's Michael Myers. He already has that rage to them. When he kills Danny Trejo, I was surprised that he did it at all. But the fact that he was killing him brutally was, as you said, show the evil, but you didn't have to show it that graphically as a choice because we already got the point. And again,
but you have to when you're Rob Zombie, because Rob Zombie has no impulse control. He has no impulse control. Why do something, once when you can do it 5 times?
Well, here's my thing, though, is I don't think you would. I don't think that it is as gruesome if you only see him dunked once. I think by the repeated dunkings, it drives home more how evil it is and makes it feel less like a safe horror movie. I think that it really, you feel more for Danny Trejo because you see him spitting up blood 3 times than you do if you see him spitting up blood once.
And Arnie, I agree with you, but I'm gonna ask you to go further with this, which is that we no longer have a horror movie that's enjoyable to watch. It's not fun to watch the killings. We feel bad. We feel the killings. It's upsetting. It's vile, and we are asked to look at evil in a way that is unglamorized. Do you feel like this movie really exposes that, or is worth that journey?
I don't think I had that journey. I saw unglamorized evil, and it was a horror film, and therefore I was going with it. And I don't think I underwent a personal journey so much as I really did feel bad for Ishmael. I was like, oh God, oh God, oh God. But, it didn't take me on a personal journey. It just drove home the point more of this is a bad motherfucker.
Right, which to me changes the relationship with the horror movie. Like, you can kind of be with a horror movie killer like Freddy or something because he's got a personality, he's funny, he's got wit, there's characteristics that we like. If you say we're not going to make that kind of movie, we're going to make a horrible, nasty, I'm going to show you what death really looks like kind of movie, it is imperative that we have a noble character and someone to like. And this is kind of what we've been getting at our whole podcast, Arnie, about you identifying with the killer, me identifying with the protagonist.
I do not identify with Michael in this movie one bit. And the person who I identify with, the person I connect with, and the person who gets top billing is Malcolm McDowell. He's the one who I like in this movie, who has his own sort of pathos.
Right, sure. Not a flawed character, certainly, but a noble one.
Yes. But you are right in that I think that in the 80s especially, we became too cuddly with our serial killers, Michael and Jason and Freddy. And in the 90s, they became downright punchlines because they were on Macy's parade. And now we're getting back to the root of horror, a fear not seen since the original Halloween or even Norman Bates.
Right. I don't get that fear here, though. The problem I had with this is that it stopped being fun for me. And for this movie, what made the first Halloween so great is the creepiness and the suspense part. And that was completely gone. And so I hear your point that you have to see the evil by dunking him over and over again. Okay. But it got to a point in that scene where I said, I got this. I see it. And he kept going still. And that's all I'm saying is that, yes, you have to show it over and over again to show what kind of brutal murderer this guy is and how brutal a murder is for this guy. But it gets to a point where the point is made and he still keeps going. That's all I was saying.
I agree with you on this. And I think it is a challenge for Halloween 2 is to write what wasn't done in this film, which is that you've asked us to give consideration to this level of brutality. It's not enough just to show it to us. You have to do something more with it. Perfect example would be, in my estimation, would be Silence of the Lambs, a movie that shows you unrelenting horror, but also has a very noble protagonist and a killer who you want to know what's going on in his mind. This, I just wanted away. Once you allow realism into your genre, when you've taken it, removed from sort of the titillating, scary horror of Carpenter's vision into something grim and unrelenting, you have to change the story itself. And that's what Rob didn't do. He just made an endless series of vile acts. Not scary, not fun, vile.
When he gets his outfit, in the first movie, he just kills a random mechanic. Here, he goes up against Joe Grizzly, who is played by, what's his name?
He was in Devil's Rejects.
And before that, he was in the original Dawn of the Dead.
Right, he was. Good, Arnie.
It's just a big guy who is basically, you had to get a big guy to find somebody who this Michael could steal clothes from. And that is a great scene when you see somebody as big as Michael going toe to toe with Michael in a bathroom stall. But I love that scene because it's the one time that Michael gets a fight in this. Every other time Michael is dominating. But
interesting. I'm glad you said that because I saw no point to that scene, and now I can see what they were going for.
I had to think about what that scene was in there for, and then once he had the jumpsuit on, I'm like, okay, that was a scene to get him on the jumpsuit. Okay, so
I mean, I'm not sitting around wondering how Michael gets his clothes. I mean,
well, no, but wait a minute, it's the Terminator. It's the beginning of the Terminator movie.
Yeah, but I guess we have so many depraved characters, and the idea of this is that we're trying to figure out what's going on in his mind. To spend time listening to Rush's Tom Sawyer and watching a fight in a truck stop with this cartoonish truck driver, that was the first scene in the movie where I felt like this really should have been cut.
What bugged me about that scene, though, is it felt like we were still in the 70s because they were listening to Rush, and this guy had the sideburns. I'm like, they should have brought us into the modern era where every other character after he breaks out is. You know, they should have been listening to maybe some Rob Zombie music or something instead of listening to Rush.
And you know, I liked the scene. I thought it was fun to watch that one scene. I actually did have a good time watching that scene.
Yeah, I like it because it gives Michael a chance to struggle against somebody who's more well-armed and equally strong and shows that insanity beats brawn.
I was liking the fact, and that's the only scene where they tip off the fact that Michael is not driving a vehicle. That was one thing that always bothered me about the first one, and every time he appeared in a car, I was like, he was a child. He never drove. They didn't even let him have driving video games. So that was, I think I would have been better never having seen that scene and not knowing that he got in a truck and drove it away.
He did not drive the truck away. He walked.
Okay. All right.
It was 100 miles to this. Then they drop it was 100 miles.
Yeah, but Rob Zombie specifically said that Michael doesn't know how to drive.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciated that. And then I misunderstood some of what was going on in that scene. But
he was merely getting a jumpsuit.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And I love he goes back home and his mask and knife are just where I left them, and he gets his stuff. I guess he grew into the mask now, and I love how it's a little bit decomposed because it's so old in the basement, the floorboards of the house. So that, you know, going back to the house for his mask.
But he had the foresight to put it under floorboards in the basement. You know, I mean, that was smart of him to know that someday I'm going to come back for this mask. And I thought the aged mask was nice and creepy too. I love the brown lines in it and the decomposition. It makes makes a strong mask even scarier.
Yeah. You know what? I'll say this. On the Friday the 13th remake, we spent a good deal of time debating about whether it was effective in the scene that Jason got the hockey mask. And my argument was that it just felt like it was kind of there. This felt earned. It's an indulgence, certainly. But the idea that this mask was initially brought into his life because his sister's boyfriend wore it while he was having sex with her. And that you bring in all of those connotative ideas about his burgeoning sexuality and how he felt towards his sister, possibly incest, and then his anger towards her, and then have it underneath the floorboards, him pulling out again, returning to get his younger sister. I thought all of that worked. I was with it in that moment. I totally accepted it, even though I understood that it probably wouldn't have happened that way.
Okay, so the movie, once it gets into the remake of Halloween.
Yeah, I think we can skip a large part of summarizing the second half because it really is just like watching the first movie on fast forward.
Like a greatest hits.
Yeah, pretty much. So Laurie drops off the key or something to the house, whatever. She drops off the envelope. That's like in the first movie to the Myers house. Michael sees Laurie. Now, he sniffs the envelope, and somehow later on in the movie, he doesn't kill her and pulls out the picture showing that I know who you are, you're related, trying to communicate with her. How on earth did he know that she is the baby? There's no way that he figures that out that we see on screen. You can't tell me it's just the smell because I don't buy that because this movie doesn't have that kind of stuff going on. So I don't understand how he recognized that was his sister. I was going to ask you two, how on earth did he figure that out?
I think the movie has a weird Freudian subtext about how he personally identifies with that baby, that he identifies with the helplessness of that baby, and that baby is never going to hurt him. And, you know, he can murder everyone else in his family and then sit down and cuddle with that baby.
Yes.
I think we're supposed to accept the fact that he can just know it's her, which is swimming up current against the idea that we're going to do a realistic Halloween.
Yes,
that is something that it's like, now you're entering in metaphorical and supernatural, and that doesn't work. But I think we are supposed to accept the fact that he can just know that he's related to her, and that he just knows in their blood that they have this connection.
And if they had that and that was true, and that's great, I need to see something that tells me that. Because at the end of the movie, when he tries to connect with her, and clearly she doesn't want that, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Because how does he know it's her?
He gets out and he goes and he kills Laurie Strode's foster parents, and they are just having a standard evening at home, lighting a fire, decorating for Halloween, and he breaks in and he kills them. It's like it could happen to me, and I find that to be disconcerting. And I find nothing scarier than an actual just crazed motherfucker with a knife, because a guy haunting me in my dreams, ooh, or if I happen to go to his camp, ooh, but somebody coming into my house with a weapon is real, and to see it happen like that is frightening. And I found it to be horrifying. And the thing is, again, this goes back to what I said before about the sophistication. I've seen the bloodless deaths so many times that these days those movies are PG-13. And to get a kind of visceral reaction from me, a kind of revulsion and a kind of fear, requires this level of brutality in the 21st century, and Zombie nailed it.
Well, I gotta say, you brought up the parents' death. That scene also got to me in The Less is More. Would have been much more effective there. He pops up after Laurie leaves and the parents are there, and he captures the dad and brings him in the house. The door slams, and the camera lingers for a couple of seconds on the door. But then for some reason, we go in the house and we see murders. We see Dee Wallace getting killed. Well, wouldn't it have been much more effective, much more creepy, much more suspenseful, much more scary to have the door close and then cut back to what Laurie's doing? Because when they call the house later on, when Loomis calls the house over the answering machine, when they're trying to pick up the phone, then you see the shots of their dead bodies. If you didn't see the murders there, it actually would have heightened the suspense, would have heightened the mystery, would have actually got me more into the movie. But instead, he had to show it to me. And then later on, when the answering machine came, he had to show it to me again. Once we got into the remake of Halloween, what made Halloween so great is exactly what you just said, Arnie. This could actually happen. And you break into the house. That's all you needed at that point.
I think that's the difference between a suspense movie and a horror movie, is a suspense movie doesn't go in a door and a horror movie does. And a horror movie should have some action to it. And just seeing the dead bodies later, that may have a jump feel to it, but it's not nearly as scary as seeing them killed.
But you don't have to show every murder. I agree with you. You have to show some murders in a horror movie. That's the whole point. But you don't have to show every single one. In the original Halloween movies, we didn't see every single one. We got to see the murder of the best friend with the glasses and the ghost thing. That's a great murder. That's what you want to see, right? But you don't have to see these two because you get the point.
I'm going to go on a weird metaphorical tangent here. Indulge me. I said I'm going to take you out to lunch, and we sit down at a fast food restaurant, and we eat burgers, eat it, and you enjoy it, and yeah, that was good. If I said I'm going to show you how you got this, and before I took you into lunch, and we go to the slaughterhouse, and we see the animals being eviscerated, and then we sit down and eat it, you're not going to enjoy the meal the same way, even though it is the same meal and tastes the same. And that is how I feel about this movie. Once you have asked me to really look at the brutality of the murders and to consider the murders with every skull-crushing, artery-blasting realism, it is not going to be a fun movie. It is going to be a challenging movie. It's going to be a provocative movie. And my position towards it changes entirely. I can no longer say this is a good time. I'm now invested in a different way. And it can still work. But I need another component that Zombie, up to this point, and I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say maybe he'll fix it in 2, does not provide.
The thing is, by doing this and making him so ruthless and making us watch this so often, I had zero doubt that he would kill Laurie if given the chance. And then when later on he captures her and he doesn't, it makes it all the more interesting. Well, why did he not kill her? He killed everybody else. Why not her?
I agree.
So then, yeah, you have the basic remake and you get the death of Linda and her boyfriend Bob, which is straight out of the first one with the ghost scene, only now instead of fucking in the the neighbor's house. They're actually fucking in the Myers house, but I don't get it because Bob has a van. Why did he need a house? That was the whole point of a van in high school, wasn't it?
I think the point was that, nothing says sex to me like going into an old house and having it there. They had the same issue in the last movie, Resurrection, when they were in this Michael Myers house and the two kids thought, it's a dilapidated house. Let's have sex. Same thing. But here, you had them in the house. They actually got them in the house, which makes sense for them to die because they're in Michael's home and Michael's there. So that whole section was, you got to see your murders. That's what I want to see. Those murders I want to see in this Halloween.
And I like the fact that, they didn't take too many lines straight from the original. They took a couple out, mostly for Loomis. But I do like when she again pulls down the top and see anything you like right out of the first one. It was a great callback. The whole thing, that is one of the iconic kills in the first Halloween is when he's in that ghost suit. And so to do it again, the ghost suit and the glasses, you needed it for this one. I liked it.
You had to do it, but I wouldn't say I liked it. I wouldn't say I liked much about the second half of the movie, actually. The creativity that had gone into the whole thrust of what had been in the first half of the movie now felt like, and we have to do all of this. And it felt very much like someone handing in a term paper that he wrote a couple hours ago. It's like, all right, and I got to do this scene and this scene and this scene and this. All right, till he gets to the end.
Well, Stuart, could it be that this was the first movie from Michael's point of view?
It is.
Right. So maybe that's why you had to feel like you had to hit all the beats from the first movie and the murder sections, why it's, as you guys said, fast forwarded, because you were supposed to see it, the first movie from someone else's point of view, kind of like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, maybe. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit for that. I don't think it totally worked, but that's the impression I got why it was going on super speed, which is why Laurie is such a non-character as compared to the first movie with Jamie Lee Curtis.
Completely.
And so, because we're not dealing with Laurie's story, we're dealing with Michael's story, as you keep saying about it. The first movie. So that's what I got from it, and I didn't care. I wanted to see. I'm really glad they brought that killing with the glasses with the ghosts, but since I didn't care about Laurie at all, I didn't care about those scenes, so that was a real difference.
It's the striking difference between the two movies. And I've already admitted my bias. I want to know what's going on with the victim. I wanted more of Loomis having a point to do, which he did in the first half and not in the second. And Laurie, the idea that we're going to try and find out what makes Michael tick instantly is less interesting to me. I'm not compelled to read about serial killers and know what's going on in their mind. And I didn't really want that movie. I thought he hinted at that in the first half, and in the second half, it's not even relevant.
In the first movie, what made the first Halloween so much fun with the shots, they had these lingering shots from the point of view of this serial killer guy looking at Laurie Strode and his friends walking, looking through the windows. So now this movie in the second half to me was the first movie, again, told, but more from Michael's perspective of how it went down in his mind. But then wouldn't we still have those lingering shots? Wouldn't you want to bring those back in? Because, again, with the whole idea of setting up some suspense and some mystery and some scariness and chilliness, since that was so missing, if he did that and took the time to do that, instead of showing me Dee Wallace's death, the way I said before, and, when you had Danielle Harris saying the same thing, he dragged her back in the house, the door closed, the camera lingered, and then later in the movie, Laurie finds her on the ground, dying, bloody. You could have left it with the door closing because Laurie finds her later. It would have been even more creepy because then it leaves you hanging on, oh my God, what happened to her? What happened to her? Even though we know she died, we don't get to see it yet. We get to see it later. It adds some suspense and mystery to the whole shebang.
And I think that I need to speak up here as the fan of horror in general, which is we enjoy seeing is this the moment where he kills her? Is this the moment where he kills her? Is this the moment where he kills her? And that is fun for a horror fan. And that's why you put it there. We don't want to see a bloodless, non-violent horror movie. We don't want our PG-13 horror movies. Look at PG-13 horror movies. It doesn't work. It's not what we want.
I think you're missing my point, though.
No, what you said, though, is you just want all the suspense. But the thing is, the reason we go in that house and we see the stabbing, and first of all, the character of Annie doesn't die. She lives.
Yes.
And the whole thing, we think she's going to die. She's certainly outmatched. And, I think that was a hugely brutal death. The fact that Rob Zombie didn't even let her put a shirt on and she's bloody and half naked and crawling and being dragged along the floor and you can just hear the skin against the wood. Oh my God, that was painful to watch. It was horrible.
It is an agonizing scene. I think actually it's one of the more effective in the second half. The way that they set up the fact that Michael is behind the door in the front when she comes in and discovers her.
That was
and then
great.
It sort of slowly. That is the best scene, in my opinion, in the remake of the the original movie itself, not the early scenes that Zombie has added. It's terrifying. That is it. That is the only time that I can say that I felt frightened by what I was watching. I think what Brock and I are both saying is that I don't get a lot out of watching gratuitous violence. I like implied violence, and I like the suspense of it. And I definitely think you can make the case, Arnie, that there are many great suspense movies that don't rely on gore.
But there's a difference between suspense and horror. This is not a suspense film.
Okay, but you need to pepper it in a little bit to constantly show the horror. I think it'd be a stronger horror movie if sometimes it's implied and sometimes we want to see the murders. I'm not disagreeing with you.
But it was implied when he escaped. When he escaped the sanitarium, it was implied. We didn't see all the deaths. We just come back and see all the carnage.
They cut them. They actually filmed them. You can see it in the cut scenes. There is not one death that Rob Zombie didn't consider every broken bone and blood vessel for.
What made the first movie so great was he had a combination of both. And it was so much fun to take that journey of that movie. And here we just don't have that same sort of suspense going on at all. And it would have benefited from a little bit of it, just a little bit.
I can only imagine it was an artistic choice. I don't think Rob Zombie's a fool. I think he knew this.
I agree.
And I think he said, I want a grit. I mean, it's what he does. It's kind of why I didn't connect with those other two movies that he made. It was that he just likes to indulge that level of depravity. He's fascinated by watching depraved people do awful things. And I don't need to eat the whole bowl. You know what I mean? It's just a personal taste. I don't want all that. He made the Halloween movie that he wanted to make. I don't know that I wanted it, but I think that it was well made.
I completely agree.
I suppose we should talk about the major difference of the second half and the original movie is the fact that Michael does actually obtain Laurie. And rather than it being about sticking a knife in her, he wants to relate to her and relate to her in the way that he did to the baby in the early scenes of the movie. And there's a nice bookend quality to the way the first half and the second half complement each other. What did you guys think about that?
I found it all to be very weird and kind of incestual, sexual kind of way, because you got Laurie there, who is by no means the virgin she was in the first one. She's, sticking her finger through a bagel and all that. And, when you see him take her down there and you think he stuck something into everyone else, and remember he was touching his earlier sister, who we already said looks a lot like Laurie, which could be how Michael knew her, by the way. There's a strong resemblance.
Strong. And I really did have to look it up and see it was two different actresses.
And I really kind of felt like I didn't know what was happening. I mean, it could have been a druid cult. It could have been a rape. It could have been a murder. I was just, you want suspense. That was me the first time seeing this movie is, what the fuck is he doing?
Yeah. But I mean, it makes sense, I think, when he takes off his mask and he's kneeling in front of me. To me, the mystery of it was revealed at that point, that he wanted to relate to her, that he wanted as a sister. And in that relationship that they had as a child, that he had regressed. In that moment, he was tired of being the killer and he just wanted love.
And he says I don't know if this was only in the uncut version, because I know they added some sanitarium scenes, but he says when he puts on the mask, he can, block himself from himself. And when he takes off the masks, he faces reality. So by taking off the mask with her, he is trying to be human, I think. And that is right.
Right.
I think it's almost a little over-explaining, a little too much Freud for my taste. I mean, I think Zombie knows that too, which is why some of those scenes you say were cut, is that he didn't want it to be too much of a deconstruction. It doesn't work if you explain him away too much. Michael is always best left with a sense of ambiguity. But I actually feel like that scene was really effective in the way that he allows his guard to come down. And what does she do? What any of us would have done in that moment. Try to get away by stabbing him and running for the door. And it's what turns him back and completely back into the brutal killer.
And what he wants to kill her at that point? Is that the impression after that? After she stabs
Absolutely. After that point, she's no longer the baby to him. She's no longer the defenseless object of love and need. She is just like all the others.
just like the older sister.
Exactly.
Right.
So we also.
And I think that was a dissatisfying artistic choice. I mean, I think that was right. I would argue that I feel like the climax of the movie itself was a little, I don't know, protracted. Did it go on a little long for you guys?
Yeah, it did.
For me, I was like, all right. She's in the rafters here. I was over it. After that scene transpired in the basement, I really only needed about 5 more minutes before credits roll. And I think there's like 15.
Yeah. Now, again, in our cut, we can see that Loomis doesn't die. In your cut, which is what I saw in theaters, it appears like he crushes Loomis's eyes out, which is great because the book was called The Devil's Eyes, and he gouges Loomis's eyes out and just drops him on the ground, presumably dead.
And he's totally referencing Blade Runner, but anyway.
Yeah, I thought he did die, Arnie. When he popped up later, I'm like, wait a minute, didn't his eyes get poked out? He can actually see. And then, did he die again?
No, he was just left there. Michael just shirked him off and left him there.
Because then, it leaves it open for him to come back if they want him to. But I thought he had died from his injuries.
So did I. And when I first saw it in theaters, walking out, I'm like, Malcolm McDowell was the best thing about this movie. And I know they're going to make a sequel because it was the most successful Halloween out of all of them. And I want Malcolm back, but it appears that he's dead. But you can always bring back whoever you want to, pretty much, except perhaps Laurie's parents.
But weren't they getting away from that? I mean, I want to throw this out there. I got the impression that they were trying to present Michael as he could be a living, breathing human being. That although he had this rage in him, it was explainable by psychology, that he was not the shape of pure evil and he was not indestructible. He was a big guy and hard to take down, but that he was very much human and could be taken down. There wasn't a whole lot of people stabbing and setting him on fire and doing things that would kill human beings to him. For the most part, he goes unchallenged.
That is true.
Which is why I'm wondering, how do you keep that approach after Laurie at point blank range shoots him in the face?
We never see where the bullet goes in that defense. Maybe it was the face. It was certainly someplace bloody, but you don't know that she blew his head off. And obviously he is coming back.
Right.
But yeah, it is mentioned, though. This is the first movie to actually use in dialogue the shape, because Loomis does say inside the mask there's nothing. He's just a shape of a human being. Right. So, that is reference there that he is truly still just the shape. As much as it tries to be from Michael Myers' point of view, I think Zombie failed in doing that because Michael Myers' point of view is unrelatable. It is, he is not a human, so therefore you can't present it from inhuman eyes. It would be like a human trying to make a movie as seen by an alien. You can't do it.
But we've seen that done before with Batman, with James Bond. I mean, I feel like it can be done, but what we're trying, what you're asking people to do is en masse relate to someone who becomes sociopathic.
Yeah, I mean, everybody can sit around and go, I want to be James Bond and drive the Z3 and wear the tux, and I want to be Batman and have the gadgets. But if you're watching this movie and you're going home going, I want to be Michael Myers and fuck up my sister, there's something wrong with you and get help, please.
Seriously.
It doesn't entertain that kind of, and some horror movies do entertain the fantasy that you could be the killer. I think Child's Play is a perfect example of a movie that is beloved by children because it's this little thing that takes down all the adults.
And I used to love Freddy Krueger in that way. You could relate to him. I'd costume as Freddy Krueger. There's a different thing there going on, though, because it's more comic and more soft. This is hard. This is like wanting to be one of the rapists from The Accused. I mean, it's just Yikes. Horrible.
And what I would argue, and I think it's what I've been arguing, is if I will go there and I accept that and I like that, if you make it worthwhile. If you just do it to do it, I'm sort of annoyed. You've violated me. If you've done it, but you've created a character that I can empathize with and a reason for taking that journey, I'll go with you on it. But for me, the struggle with Halloween, that's still unfolding, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he's not done yet. There's still part 2, is that I don't really know why I needed a more gratuitous portrait of what I enjoyed in the first movie.
And you referenced Child's Play several times. Chucky was in this movie. The guy who plays Annie's dad, Sheriff Brackett, is the voice of Chucky.
Yeah, that's true. There's so many of those references, and which is why I equate Zombie to Tarantino. Is he knows horror movies. He knows every damn one of them, and he's filled this cast with just wonderful little character actors who you always love to see.
Clint Howard.
And they're in there. I mean, the fact that he brought Danielle Harris back, the victim of 4 and 5, for a supporting role, it just shows that he's paying attention and he knows how to do a good horror movie. He is impelled by forces promises within himself, though, to not go after the suspense, but stay close to the visceral horror.
Brock, you just watched House of a Thousand Corpses with me not too long ago. Was it me or was little Tommy Doyle dressed up just like Otis from the first movie during the ceremonial scene with the red outfit and the white face paint?
I'm going to say it was you because I didn't catch it.
Little Tommy?
Little Tommy, when he's in his Halloween costume.
What was his costume? I can't remember what it was.
It was the white face paint, and he has the teeth painted over his lips like a skeleton.
You're probably right.
And I think that's exactly how Otis was when they're taking the girl and the guy down to meet Dr. Satan. Otis was in that same face paint. I thought that was a kind of a nice, subtle reference there.
I love the makeup work on him, but I didn't catch the reference.
I don't know, but I'll tell you what, even more upsetting to me was Michael Myers' clown getup in the beginning. That is, I don't know how they've done it, but that is the creepiest clown mask ever.
So, Stuart, Arnie, do you recommend the 2007 version of Halloween? Stuart.
Take a breath. The first time I saw it, I rejected it. I said, and I like I said, I saw it with my mother. I saw it wanting to see another movie that was playing afterwards. I didn't really have any expectation for it, and I would have said no if he had asked me in 2007. Having taken a couple years off, haven't seen it again, seeing clearly how in control Zombie is of his creation, it is very much a vision that is worth taking a look at. I personally don't need it, but I think it's worth seeing, if only to strengthen my own feelings as to why I prefer the original. So that's a very qualified, very esoteric yes on my part.
Arnie.
Absolutely, I recommend this film. Out of all 9 Halloween films we've seen, this is the one that I have the best experience watching. This is a brutal movie. It's not for everyone. And, if you're the kind of person who doesn't like horror, this is not the movie that's going to win you over. But if you do like horror movies, this is one of the best ones made in recent years. And I've seen a lot. And this is one of the ones that is up there that is going to stick with me because it made an impact. I walked out of that theater and I was disturbed, and I was not scared per se, but horrified in a way. And this was only my second time watching it was for this. I bought it right when it came out on Blu-ray, but I didn't watch it. I just didn't get to it until now. And watching it again, going in with the perspective I had of having seen it once already, it's still a very disturbing movie and yet very satisfying. Again, I'm going to say in a 21st century way as far as horror goes. It is an ultimately satisfying ride for those who like a good night of scares and blood. And I think that every piece of it worked, from the 70s grit all the way through. There were some choices he made that were I making it, I wouldn't have made. I don't think I would have put, basically they were one step away from a meth lab in the Myers house in the 70s. And I don't know if that's the right choice for Michael Myers, but these were the choices he made, and I had a good time watching it both times. Yes, a million times yes, and I can't wait for the fucking sequel.
And, I said this during The House of a Thousand Corpses. I have respect for Rob Zombie as a director. The guy has a vision. The guy came in this with an idea. And, when you're doing remakes, when we talked about it Friday the 13th, that clearly wasn't there. And so to have it here, deserves full marks. As a viewer, I disagree with some of his choices. And it was hard for me to really get behind all of it. That being said, there's a lot of good stuff here. And if you have seen the rest of the Halloween movies, you have to watch this. I mean, you have to. Would I recommend this to people on the street that I don't know? Probably not. I do think there is a lot of good stuff here. If you watch horror movies, I totally recommend you watch this. It's not the same kind of conditional review I gave for House of a Thousand Corpses, because I think if you watch the Halloween movies, you have to watch this movie. And you can make your own opinion on whether or not you want to see, what he shows you. But I do think that for all the great stuff Rob Zombie does, that he constantly keeps going too far. Is I'm curious why he keeps doing it. And, that's his style and that's what he does. I don't like that. So I can't recommend that. So it is a recommend. You should watch it. You really should, especially if you've seen the first one, and make your own decision if you like this or not. Personally, I only like parts of it, and I really wish he did things differently. So that's that.
You know what it is? I'm just going to interject one more time. I have the same feeling about Tarantino. I want to love him, but he is his own worst enemy. He doesn't want me to love him. And he just keeps pushing me away.
Yeah.
That is true. There's an overindulgence factor that is relevant in all of Zombie's work. And I think it works a little better in House of a Thousand Corpses than here, because in House of a Thousand Corpses, you're in Zombie's carnival. But in Devil's Rejects in here, he's trying to invade your world, and it doesn't work quite as well.
Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. I really feel like, I think he's mentioned in press material that he saw Halloween 2 as the second part of the same story and not just a tacked on, let's make money sequel. I'm willing to go there. I am much more excited about it now than when we first started this, because I'm like, oh, I didn't really care for that Halloween remake. But now let's see him get to a point. He got us halfway there. I was dangling. I'd like for him to finish the conversation.
Well, I want to thank you both for joining me. This was a very interesting discussion. If you enjoy listening to our podcast today, please go to our website, www.nowplayingpodcast.com, and download the other movies in the Halloween franchise we've talked about. You can find our House of a Thousand Corpses, 2 episodes there. You could find Star Trek, Terminator,
Friday the 13th.
All the other ones at nowplayingpodcast.com. You can find a link to our forums where you can discuss this review and others with other people like yourselves who are listening to us. If you liked what you heard today, please leave a review for us on iTunes. If you didn't like it, don't. And we hope you will join us for our next episode, the last one in this series, the Halloween 2 remake by Rob Zombie. Thanks, everyone.
See ya.
Bye.
What's the boogeyman?
As a matter of fact, it was.
Thank you for joining us for this installment of Now Playing's Halloween Retrospective.
It's all over, my friend.
If you enjoyed this podcast, you can listen to our other installments, as well as our Friday the 13th, House of a Thousand Corpses, Terminator, and Star Trek retrospective series at our website, nowplayingpodcast.com. Now Playing is a Venganza Media production and is not affiliated with Compass International, Universal Pictures, Galaxy International Pictures, Dimension Films, Miramax Films, or the Weinstein Company. Michael Myers and all other Halloween characters and situations are copyright and trademarks of those companies, and no infringement is intended.
Please, stop it. Stop it now. Turn it off. Turn it off. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it.
Going toe-to-toe with Michael in a bathroom stall. I felt bad for the guy, though, because he doesn't get to wipe before he dies.
Yeah.
I know that's a weird thing, but it's like...
And then he puts the jumpsuit on. Yeah, the hygiene in this movie is upsetting.
Yeah.
But he doesn't take the long underwear, so the shit, we have to assume, is on the long underwear. Michael didn't take shit-stained trousers. He left...
I wasn't sure. I mean...
That's funny.